Hey guys, welcome back to Anime Cardio. Last time, we dissected the dark and tragic story of Rise Kamishiro from Tokyo Ghoul and Tokyo Ghoul Re. But today, we're turning our focus to a character whose transformation is perhaps the most drastic and the most gut-wrenching in the entire series. I'm talking, of course, about Seidou Takizawa. Once an overlooked Ren-2 investigator, Takizawa becomes one of the most terrifying ghouls in the story. But what makes him unforgettable isn't just his strength, it's his tragedy. When we first meet Takizawa, he's honestly kind of a nobody. A bit awkward, friendly, he jokes around with Akira and Juzo. On the surface, he's a standard CCG investigator, but underneath that, he's struggling with pressure and with self-worth and with identity. His backstory is surprisingly normal, especially in a world like Tokyo Ghoul. A stable family, living parents, and a younger sister he deeply cares for. What pushed him to join the CCG wasn't ambition, it was fear. As a kid, his elderly neighbor was killed by a ghoul, leaving his mother traumatized. That helplessness stuck with him. He vowed to never feel that powerless again. He entered the CCG Academy and graduated second best in his class, just behind Akira Mado. And that's where it started, the feeling of being second best. He loved Akira, but never felt good enough. He respected Juzo's talent, but couldn't admire him. And when it came to Amon, he looked up to him, his strength, his popularity and courage, but couldn't help envy his bond with Akira. But if there was one person Takizawa trusted completely, it was his mentor, Kosuke Huji. Huji wasn't just his superior, he was Takizawa's anchor. Whenever Takizawa doubted himself, and that happened a lot, Huji was there with reassurance. During the Aogiri raid, Takizawa was assigned to stay behind, while Akira and Juzo went to the front lines. He felt sidelined, useless. Huji calmed him, telling him that their job, guarding the 20th ward, was just as important. Then came the owl suppression operation. Takizawa, not desperate to prove himself, found himself panicking again due to being on the field for the first time. Huji once more gave him hope. We'll be far away from action, you'll be safe. But this didn't help Takizawa. Later that night, he has a complete breakdown, curled up on his floor, terrified of dying, terrified of being forgotten, writing over and over again, "I don't want to die," in his will. That contradiction of wanting to fight but fearing death defines Takizawa and can be most evidently seen during the owl suppression. When he hears the news of another owl appearing on the battlefield, he runs cowardly away from the battle with the excuse of needing to look for Amon. At this point, he also recognizes that Akira was always the truly brave one, and that he always wanted to stay on the sidelines. However, once he finds Amon, wounded and facing Tatara, Takizawa snaps. He ignores Amon's order to flee and opens fire on Tatara, fighting bravely to protect the one person he respected the most. He loses his arm in the process. It's raw, impulsive act of courage, and his last as a human. After the raid, Takizawa is captured by Aogiri and becomes a lab rat in Dr. Kanu's twisted experiments. He's forcibly turned into an artificial one-eyed ghoul, modeled after Kaneki's biology, with the goal of creating a new owl that could rival the original. And the result? Takizawa is reborn, but barely human. In Tokyo Ghoul Re, when we see him for the first time at the ghoul auction, he's completely unrecognizable. White, ragged hair, missing eyebrows, black lips, black fingernails, deep, sunken eyes, wearing a long black trench coat. He walks like a man possessed. And it's not just his appearance. He's violent, unhinged, sadistic. He's loud as human and ghouls alike, laughing while doing it and crying at the same time. He's both the torturer and the tortured. He hates what he's become, but he also can't stop it. His mind is fractured, his pain is the only thing that reminds him he's still real. And now he's haunted by a new inferiority complex, this time aimed at Ken Kaneki. Dr. Kanu called Ken Kaneki his masterpiece, and Takizawa just another experiment, second place again. Fast forward to the Hiroshima landing operation. This is the climax of Takizawa's internal war. When Takizawa sees Huji, his former mentor, locked in battle with Tatara, the very man who turned him into a monster, he snaps again. Despite being Tatara's subordinate, Takizawa turns on him, but this time it's different. He's not acting out of bloodlust. He's trying to prove that there's still something human inside him. He fights Tatawa with everything he has, not just out of revenge, but in a desperate attempt to reclaim who he used to be. But Fuji, instead of embracing that moment, tries to eliminate him, to preserve the image of Takizawa he once knew, rather than accept the broken version standing before him. And this devastates Takizawa. In the heat of battle, Takizawa kills Fuji, but even in that act, there's no satisfaction, only pain. Fuji didn't fight at full strength, and later Takizawa comes to understand why. Fuji didn't want to kill him. Fuji had loved him like a son, and perhaps in some part of him still hoped he'd be saved. That truth hits hard, but it doesn't hit alone. After the battle, Amon finds Takizawa and tells him something he desperately needed to hear. Even now, you can atone. It's not too late. And more than that, Amon reminds him of the courage he once had. During the Ao suppression, when everyone else fled, it was Takizawa who stood his ground to protect a dying comrade. That moment, once clouded in shame and pain, is reframed as an act of bravery, a seed of redemption. That seed begins to grow when, in an unexpected moment, Akira Amado herself steps in to protect Takizawa. In the middle of Fukushima, Mutsuki tries to kill him, seeing only the monster he's become, but Akira jumps between them, and Takizawa is stunned. This is the woman he once loved, and the one whose approval he longed for, who always seemed distant. Now she's risking her life for him. And in that moment she whispered, "I'm sorry, I should have stopped you, I should have helped you." That apology breaks him. For the first time since his transformation, someone sees Seidou, not the owl. And that moment becomes the first true step towards rebuilding himself. And what does he do? He saves Akira during the retreat. He carries her out, shields her body, and when she's critically wounded, he stays by her side. When she's on her deathbed, he's the one worrying, pacing, asking Kaneki to get her medical help. This isn't just survival anymore. This is love, this is regret, this is redemption starting to take shape. After Hiroshima, Takizawa doesn't disappear. He joins GOAT, Kaneki's undergrad organization, trying to build a peaceful future for ghouls and humans. And though he still sees himself as broken, he puts his strength to use helping others. When Kaneki needs RC Suppressant to save Akira, Takizawa helps him get them, not for the mission, not for the glory, but because he genuinely wants to see her live. And as GOAT becomes a sanctuary for the lost and broken, Takizawa begins rediscovering the man he used to be. One of the most powerful moments is when he watches Amon confront Donato Porpora, the twisted ghoul who raised Amon like a father. Amon hesitates because despite everything Donato did, he still loved him, and Takizawa sees this clearly. He doesn't mock him, he doesn't push him, he simply reminds Amon that it's okay to have conflicting feelings, that love and hate can exist side by side. It's something Takizawa had to learn the hard way with Fuji. By this point, it's clear, Takizawa is no longer a tool of Aogiri or Kano. He's not the Black Owl anymore, he's just a man trying to make peace with the past. But that doesn't mean he can't escape it. In the final chapters of Tokyo Ghoul, Takizawa makes a surprising decision. Despite everything he's been through, despite how ghouls tortured and transformed him, he chooses to become a ghoul investigator again, to hunt down ghouls, not for revenge, not out of hatred, but because it's what he was meant to do. He wants to protect people like his mother, like his sister, like Akira. But this time it's different. He does it with his eyes open, knowing that there's no clear line between good and evil in this world. Seidou Takizawa isn't the strongest character in Tokyo Ghoul. He's not the smartest, but he's arguably the most humane. He was broken, rebuilt, and broken again, and yet, through pain, madness, and guilt, he still fought to feel like himself. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit the like button. If we get just 5 likes, we'll cover another underrated character, maybe Edo or Donato next. And don't forget to subscribe for more anime psychology and breakdowns right here on Anime Cardio. Until next time.